Hello everyone, welcome to the Southern Scally Capper. Today we are taking a look at the All Heart by Boston Scally Company. Let's get to it. Here it is. This is the All Heart. This is a 6-panel blue and purple plaid wool blend cap. In Boston Scally's own words, this 6-panel quad patchwork design is inspired by the 4 chambers of the heart. It's a design that has been long envisioned and finally brought to life with thoughtful craftsmanship. Here is the cap in hand. This is the All Heart by Boston Scally Company. And look at those colors. I love this pattern right here. It's such a neat color. And then you have the bluish like we see represented in the illustrations we see of the heart and the ventricles and the blood flow, the veins, all of that. And you have this deep, neat looking purple. I really like this color, the front panels as well, the front 2 panels of this, and you can see it right there. This cap is supposed to represent the heart. Of course, that is what this cap is all about. And as you could see there, I did also get the pin. As you see here, it has the 2 arrows through the heart. I think this is also a great looking pin. I am a fan of how this pin looks on this cap. It really just, it completes the cap in my opinion. It makes it a standout cap. And what is really funny is when I first saw this cap, it came out last year. This was a re-release. I ended up just getting it this year. But the first year it came out, I'd only been into Boston Scally caps for about a month at that point because I got into them of January of 2025. So I was just getting my bearings. I was just, the wheels were starting to roll, starting to turn, and I was starting to get into the caps. So I actually let this one go. This was not one of the ones that I got originally, although I did get the Valentine Rose. So I might actually do a review of that cap at some point because I really like that cap a lot. It's a very beautiful cap. It accentuates, I think, February Valentine's Day very well. But going back to this cap, the All Heart, this was one, like I was saying, that I actually passed on last year just because there were so many options, right? You'll know that almost instantly when you start looking at Boston Scally's site, just how many caps they have, how many shirts they have, how many hoodies they have. They just have the complete gambit of apparel, merchandise, all sorts of, even bags, I think, luggage bags, which I didn't know until recently when I was kind of going through Boston Scally's site, looking at things other than hats and the shirts and all that. So I saw they had things like that as well. So they are just stacked with merchandise and with things you can buy from Boston Scally. But as you can see here, it also does have the hoodie. And I really like the hoodie. This is a really good looking maroon hoodie. As you can see, it does have the logo there, the heart logo, which is of course the same as the pin. And it is the same as what we have on the inside of the cap. And that is the All Heart logo right there. Such a neat logo on the inside. It is that purple too. I like that purple lining in there. It is the sticker, so it's not the silk lining, unfortunately, but still, I really like it. The stickers don't really affect me like they do for some of the reviewers, for some of the YouTube reviewers who look at these caps because of the bald heads. So it sticks to their head, I've heard. When it gets really hot, they try to take it off and, you know, it's a suction cup a little bit. But for me right now, it's not a big deal, as it probably will be very soon. But I like this pattern. I know I pointed it out at the beginning of the video, but now what is kind of odd about this to me is that Boston Scally calls this pattern a plaid, but to me, this looks like a houndstooth. It looks like a houndstooth. I mean, I think it most certainly is, but I really like all of these different colors in here because typically when you have a houndstooth, you only have 1 or 2 colors, but you can see all these colors here, this really dark blue here, this light blue, this purplish, this light purple. So you have all those different colors in there, which I think look really good on this cap. And like I said, this was one I passed on immediately. The first year I saw it, when it did come out, it just wasn't a cap that I was all that interested in. And so what changed? What changed was that I read, I read the description on Boston Scally's site, and it was talking about endurance, resilience, you know, the heart. And And that just kind of hit me, and it hit me for a very specific reason. Of course, the intro was a little bit different for this video. Those were pictures of me, as you saw, of course. So this video is going to be a little different. It's not going to be a typical review. I'm going to go into a little bit of my personal story about why I like this cap, and from a Christian perspective, because I am a Christian. So that might not be something that everyone wants to sit here and listen to, is my personal story about why I like a cap. So if you're not interested in that, that's okay. If you want to, I'm going to put it down below somewhere right in this area. If you want to skip ahead and go to this part here that I have down below, if you want to go to this and just see what I rate this cap from 1 to 5, feel free to do that. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm not going to know. But that's okay. But if you do want to stick around and hear my story, then here we go. I'm going to give you this story. And if you're not interested, go ahead and skip ahead. And I hope you join me for the next video. So here we go. So I was born with a condition called tricuspid atresia. And that is essentially, I was born without a right heart valve. So when I was 2 years old, I actually had to go to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, because in 1987, when I was 2, this was essentially the only hospital that was doing this kind of surgery that was trustworthy. And this was the place that I was taken to have this open heart surgery performed. So I had the surgery. Of course, I don't remember any of it. But about 11 years ago, I had the surgery was really kind of a temporary fix. So what they call, that was the Fontan procedure. And now I had to have the Fontan revision. This was 11 years ago when I had my second open heart surgery. So of course, I remember this one. That one I remember very well. And it got iffy there for a bit. Of course, I was unconscious for the surgery itself, which took over 8 hours because the scar tissue I have running from here all the way down to here, you can't see it there, but it goes down just a little bit above the belly button. So I had to be reopened, of course, and there was so much scar tissue from my first surgery that it took a good bit of way longer than they thought to open me up and to have that surgery done. And so once I woke up, which was actually 2 days later, because I was staying unconscious because of the medication they were giving me. So they finally got me off that medication and I was recovering. And I'm not going to lie, it was a tough recovery there in ICU. There were a couple times I thought, I'm not going to make it. And it got iffy there. And I just felt your body, you know, that stress that it goes through is incredible because, of course, you can't walk immediately. I was so incredibly weak. And, you know, you get to the point you saw in the pictures in the intro on the walker that was, of course, still in the hospital where you're essentially learning how to walk again. I mean, it was really tough. And it was a very tough procedure. And there were times where, you know, I was like, I don't know if I'm making this. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to walk again. You just don't know what your body's going to take and how it's going to handle those type of things. And you really, this is where it goes back to the cap. You really have to have a lot of heart to get something through something like that. You have to have a lot of determination, and you have to have a strong conviction. And being a Christian, my identity, my conviction, my faith is in Christ, in Jesus Christ, of course. That's where my strength comes from. And without that, I don't know how I personally would have made it. Because, you know, and it's another thing with this cap, you know, scripture says that everything we do flows from the heart. We are to guard our hearts. Our hearts are so important. Of course, the organ itself is such an important organ, right? I mean, because when it quits, it doesn't matter how good everything else is functioning. It's over, right? Once your heart stops, you're not getting up. Of course, you have people, you know, that come back, you know, things like that. But just generally speaking, your heart quits, you're dead, right? On this earth, your physical body's gone. There's no recovering from that. So being a heart patient, and from the Christian perspective, just because our heart, you know, the words we say, everything we do, you know, there's only much we can say that people will take us for our word, but then what really matters, of course, is what we do, right? The lives we live, how we present ourselves at work, with our families, with even, people who aren't our families, with strangers, all of that kind of stuff. That all comes from your heart, and Scripture is very clear about that. So it's not only the physical, the Purple Heart, right? We all know the Purple Heart medal. It's for courage. It symbolizes the purple on this hat. It symbolizes courage, and I think we all realize that. But when you're looking at it, from the Christian's perspective, it's just, and I think we all just know this, that everything we do, the words we say, the actions we take, the lives we live, it all flows from our heart. It all flows from that, and that's who we are. That really dictates who we are. It's not just the words, because, right, sometimes words only go so far, and we don't stand by our word always, but it's really what we do. So this really hit me, and I know it's just a cap, right? It's just a cap, but like I said, when I was reading the Boston Scally description, it just really hit me this time when I was reading through it, and I thought, that's a really, really neat idea, and I don't necessarily know if they're coming from the Christian perspective. I'm not going to say they're probably not, because I don't know, I don't know, but that's what I got out of it. So I just thought that was a really neat perspective. When I was reading through it this time, it hit me really hard in that way this time, and I thought, I've got to get this cap now. So it's going to kind of be hard for me to be objective in my rating of this cap, just because I've been through so much. The physical trauma, the emotional trauma. You go through emotional trauma when you have a surgery like that, I promise you. And it was funny because before that, I never had anxiety. Before my second open heart surgery, I never worried about all that much. And they give you this paper when you get released from the hospital. And it's essentially like, you're going to experience this, right? You're going to think you're getting better. You're going to feel like you plateau kind of, and you're not recovering the way you wish you would, and you're going to get kind of depressed, essentially, is what the paper says. They give you in so many words. And I read it and I was like, this one's not going to happen to me. And pretty much the day that they said, this is going to come about, 1 to 3 days within the date they said, you're going to start experiencing this feeling, it happened. So they know what they're talking about. So I'm so thankful, that we even have these procedures that we have now. The technology has advanced like it has, because if not, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about caps, right? So, how trivial caps are. I mean, they're not, they don't mean much in the grand scheme of things, but, it's a great hobby, and I really like caps, and I love the Boston Scally Company, what they offer. And like I said, just once I read that this year, and it hit me in the heart. And so I was like, and also, the logo here, it's got the two arrows. And so I kind of associated that personally for me for the 2 open heart surgeries I'd had. So this whole cap, I don't know why I didn't see it the first time, but this time I really did, and this cap really spoke to me, and I thought, I've got to have this thing. So I probably don't even have to pretend to tell you what I'm going to rate this thing. So here we go. Here is the rating. I'm going to go ahead and rate the All Heart by Boston Scally. I do rate on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Subjectively and objectively, I've got to give this hat a 5. I think the colors are really cool on this cap. I think the pattern, which Boston Scally calls a plaid, is actually a houndstooth. But I love that pattern there that you see there. I just think it's a really unique looking pattern. And this hat just really does, the color wise, it looks like a heart, the 4 chambers of the heart. And that's just a really, really cool idea. I think that I haven't seen any other hat company attempt. So Boston Scally, for all the flack they get at times, they have some really neat ideas. They have some really unique caps that they present. And of course, like I said, with the hoodie, this is a great hoodie. I think the maroon hoodie, it goes really well with the cap, and the pin just sets this cap off. It looks so good. What's funny is I love the heart pin so much, even last year, that I ended up getting the pin a year before I got the cap. So I'd actually put it on the Teddy. I have the Teddy, and so it's all an all red cap. So I actually put my pen, my all heart pen, on the Teddy, and I thought it looked pretty good on that. But once this came back around, I just couldn't resist anymore. Especially like I said, once I read the description just it spoke to me, and I thought, I'm getting this. And so objectively, I would probably give the box of chocolates the highest praise as far as the Valentine's Day offerings from Boston Scally. I think that one is, it's the coolest Valentine's Day cap. But subjectively, this one for me topples all of them. I mean, this one is just beyond, it's in the stratosphere. It's just so amazing, this cap, and what Boston Scally pulled off with this. So thank y'all so much for joining me today. If you did listen to my story, my personal story about this, thank y'all so much. It means so much to me, just because it's such a big part of my life. So thank you again for joining me today, and I hope you'll have a great rest of your day.